Greetings everybody, this is Sweet Beats with Sweet Beats Tech Stop. I wanted to take a little bit of time here and talk about a Tascam 134 I've got on the bench. Figured I may as well do this before I find a new home for this deck. The Tascam 134 is a little bit of a lesser known Tascam Multitrack deck. I think it's a little bit more rare. And I consider it a mashup between a Tascam 234, 133, and 238, and I'll explain why. It's a pretty neat deck. At its core, it is a 4-track, multi-track rack mount cassette deck. And so that's what associates it with a Tascam 234. Its association with the Tascam 133, though, is the fact that the 134 also includes some of the multi-image features of the 133. And what I mean by that is back in the day, cassette decks or other equipment had the ability to trigger and respond to pulse tone from other devices. So for instance, track 4 on the Tascam 134 can be an audio track, or it also has Q pulse features. And what that means is that you can output or record a low frequency Q pulse that will trigger other devices such as a slide projector device to advance. So you might have voice on one track, music on 2 tracks, and Q-Pulse on another to trigger your multi-image equipment to do stuff. So that's how it's associated with the 133, because that's what that cassette deck was designed to do. Its association with the 238 is that unlike the 234, the 238 had a more advanced transport. It had an onboard 2-point auto locator, auto punch facilities. And so the 234 didn't have that, the 238 did. Another thing that the 134 has, like the 238, is a shuttle control. So that's pretty cool. So you engage the shuttle control and then you can scrub basically forward or back to find a certain cue point or punch in point. So that's something that the 134 features like the 238. So I think the transport electronics, auto locate features on the 134 are very much like the 238. But something that the 238, which is an 8-track cassette-based multi-track recorder, what the 238 doesn't have that the 134 has, like the 234, is this 4-channel Q mixer. So on the 238, you are completely dependent on an external mixer for doing any sub-mixing or Q monitoring or anything like that. But on the 234 and the 134, it has an onboard 4-channel Q mixer, a 4x2 mixer basically. So you can monitor your 4 tracks and submix to stereo for queuing, or if you want to just do basic 4-track to 2-track stereo mixdown, the 134 can do that for you. Some other things I like about the 134 compared to the 234, it does have 2 speeds, 1 and 7/8 inch per second, and also 3 and 3/4 inch per second. Also has a pitch control. And the other thing that I really like about the 134, it's been pretty easy to work on. I got this one on the bench, needed a new capstan belt, needed a new reel table drive tire. That's down in here, little rubber tire that drives the reel tables for fast forward or fast wind, as well as the shuttle control. So needed one of those. But there are 4 screws that hold the entire transport mechanism in. There's 2 up top here, and then difficult to see in this light, but there's 1 down there and 1 down there. And once you remove those screws and unplug a few connectors here for the transport and a few connectors over here for the record play head, input output, the whole thing just lifts out after you pop the cassette door off. And there's a lot of room to work in here. That's been nice. And the record play amplifier cards are plug-in cards. You remove this chassis member and the cards just come out. So it's been easy to service, and I appreciate that compared to the 234, which isn't bad, but it's definitely not as user-friendly for servicing as the 134. So the other thing, one thing that I like about the 234 compared to the 134 though is that the 234 features Dolby noise reduction on board. I'm sorry, DBX noise reduction on board. The 134 features Dolby B and Dolby C, no DBX. Now, that's really just a matter of taste as far as I'm concerned, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I have experience using a number of Tascam's 4-track multi-track recorders with onboard DBX noise reduction, and so my ears are just kind of used to it. Dolby noise reduction versus DBX noise reduction, they both work very different from each other. I think some people are critical of how the DBX compounding noise reduction works and what maybe some of the potential artifacts are versus Dolby noise reduction. But, you know, I think it's just a matter of taste. My ears are used to it. I like how the DBX noise reduction sounds. And on the 134, there's no side chain. Some of the other vintage Tascam cassette decks might feature like a Dolby noise reduction on board, but then a switchable side chain so that you can use external noise reduction and have like an external DBX noise reduction unit and use that instead of the onboard Dolby. Well, the 134 doesn't feature that. You're relegated to Dolby B or Dolby C, which is not a bad thing. Again, it's just my preference. My ears are used to using the DBX noise reduction. So anyway, those are just a few of the highlights about a Tascam 134. This one is a 134B, which you won't see labeled on the front. You'll see it on the tag on the back of the machine, but all that means is that it also features balanced output for this 4x2 Q mixer. It also has unbalanced direct track outputs, so that you can connect those 4 outputs to 4 inputs on your mixer of choice if you want. So anyway, also has 4 high impedance mic inputs on the front, headphone out, level control. I guess the other thing that I would mention too, big distinction between the 134 and the 234, if you're familiar with the 234. The 234 has, those relatively, for this type of unit, large analog VU meters. It just, maybe if you're looking for a more vintage analog appearance, the 234 is going to be more to your taste, whereas the 134 features LED bar graph meters, but they're very effective. They work well. This is very much like the 238. So anyway, those are some off-the-cuff thoughts and impressions, likes and minor dislikes about the 134. It's a nice deck. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you like this kind of rambling about electronic equipment. I will continue to put up videos with a raft of useless information like this over and over again. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you down the road.